Now we're going to look at what we've packaged as the instant effects, which are kind of on the left hand side of the mixer here. Now these are very similar to that of the C effects or the colour effects that we had on the DJM-800, but again we've kind of relabeled them and re-engineered them to kind of work again in more of a studio stroke DJ kind of manner, and a lot more subtle again. Okay, so on the DJM-800, if you were using a effect like a high pass filter or a low pass filter on the pots here, you would have to put it at 12 o'clock and then you'd get a high pass filter or a low pass filter. Now on the DJM-2000, they all work from a left to right principle, so all the way up. Very similar to how Allen and Heath use their filters, completely from left to right. So what we can do now, if we engage HPF, which is a high pass filter, and engage the pot, we get our filter. Now with the parameter button at minimum, it's kind of more like a sweepable EQ. But if you increase the parameter pot, this kind of introduces a bit of resonance and a bit of attack on the filter. So you can get a really nice attack at the shelf point on the mixer, on the filter. So if you put that all the way around, and that principle works exactly the same for LPF, which is a low pass filter. So lots of attack now when we introduce it. You can really hear the attack there. And then if we turn it all the way down, more of a sweepable EQ. So this also works for a jet, which is kind of like maybe a phaser or a flanger, kind of like a nice spatial sweep over the top of a track. So again, there's quite a lot of attack there, but you could just turn that down. But then you can quite clearly hear if we turn that all the way up. So Pioneer were our own worst enemy sometimes. Sometimes our effects sounded amazing, but sometimes, you know, we would kind of kill this nicely produced track sometimes with this big attacking wet effect. So yeah, just the ability again to have a little bit more subtler introduction. We've also got the crush on here. Now the crush on the DJM-800 sounded very similar to, which sometimes was a little bit too harsh. But now with the parameter, or maybe the wet to dry part of the effect, you can introduce that kind of lo-fi sound, but it doesn't really have as much attack. Rather than, and we've also got a zip on here, which is more or less like a time stretch. So but again, with the parameter kind of more at the minimum stage. But probably the main one here is that of the noise generator. Now if we introduce noise, what happens now is an oscillator signal is sent to 4 individual channels. So I'm running on channel 2. If I activate noise, this is now the volume of the noise. And if I increase the minimum to maximum pot on the filter, we've basically got a white noise filter signal. So this now acts as the noise, the volume control over the noise. So that doesn't have to necessarily be on the channel that you're playing audio through, it could be on another channel. So if I put channel 1 up, and you've got a bit more kind of control there rather than it being right over the track. So that's probably going to be every sound engineer's worst nightmare basically. But what you can begin to do now is introduce some of the effects over the top of our noise. So I'm running on channel 1 now, and maybe if I use an echo, run it over 3/4 of the bar. So combining these effects and these effects, you know, you've got so many different possibilities there. One of the more fun effects is probably that of using the transform over the top of the white noise. So I've got my white noise on channel 1. I'll turn the echo off, introduce a transform, and then if I just activate it, and because my beats are set up perfectly, those two syncing effects shouldn't slip. And then you've got the ability to then you can change the parameter. So once you kind of begin to start using the mixer, you can really start to be very creative, and it's really up to the user how creative you want to be. So they're kind of the main principles behind the instant effects on the DJM-2000.